So it's gonna get a little nutty in this video. Honestly, this is not something that I think anybody's going to appreciate, but I wanted to dive into it because I thought it was interesting. And at the end of the day, I feel like that's what matters the most, right? Okay, I'm being kind of facetious here, but today what we're doing is we're talking about the Detroit Red Wings and some conversations that I saw popping up on the R-Hockey subreddit in regards to some moves the Wings could potentially look to explore in the near future. So, we're heading over to a video on the TSN broadcast from, when was this? Was this yesterday or this morning? I think it was this morning. Yeah, take a look at the newest and latest from the TSN crew on insider trading. Updates on potential signings and trades involving big-name players. You can see the description in the video. TSN's Hockey Insiders detailed the Leafs and the Avs in talks with Marner and Rantanen, how deferred compensation could bridge Toronto's talks with John Tavares, the Flames search for a top six center, and the latest on Kaapo Kakko and the Rangers. Now, that first sentence is really what we care about, because in today's video we're going to be talking about Mikko Rantanen out of the Colorado Avalanche, and the biggest idea that has been tossed out there in the trade rumor sphere from this TSN video segment. Take a look at this tweet that sums it all up. Pierre LeBrun said this, that I will tell you right now, I think Mikko Rantanen believes he can make $14 million AAV on the open market. And that's it. You know, simple tweet, simple idea. It's not really the biggest thing in the world, but I get it. You could look at this and say, wait a minute, $14 million, that's literally number one player in the league money territory. Literally the highest paid guy in the National Hockey League is Leon Draisaitl, making $14 million. Sure, Connor McDavid's probably going to get more than that on his next contract, but Mikko Rantanen is in a spot where if there's anybody to be able to match that 14 mil, sure, you can say Mitch Marner is going to be vying for that. Sure, you can say there are other names that might be able to approach that territory, but there's none other than Mikko Rantanen that I think would actually fit the bill. Why? Well, Rantanen is on pace for 114 points this year and yet another 50-goal season. He's already had one 50-goal season back in 22-23. Last year, he took a step back in terms of goals, but he still had 104 points. This is one of the best players in the NHL, an era-defining goal scorer in the National Hockey League. Rantanen has been so dominant, and there's nothing really stopping him from being able to get whatever dollar amount that is that he wants. And in fact, this was talked about on the R-Hockey subreddit. There was a conversation about $14 million a year, and some of the replies say, I don't think it would be far from the truth. He is fourth in goals since the start of 22-23 and sixth in points. He probably would be the best free agent available in the last decade, and he doesn't even turn 29 until a month into the season. Yeah, I can definitely see Rantanen getting $14 million. It mostly comes down to the fact that Draisaitl just got $14 million in Edmonton, and while Rantanen may not be quite as desired as a top center like McDavid, McKinnon, Matthews, or Dry, the cap is going up in the near future by more than whatever Rantanen's difference in value is. To put it another way, if Draisaitl just got 15.9% of the cap at $88 million, Rantanen getting 14 of a rumored $95 million cap would only be 14.7%, or an equivalent AAV of 12.9 mil. And even if the cap doesn't go up all at once, the NHL has already communicated it will go up regardless, so Rantanen's camp will negotiate the same either way. Is Rantanen worth $12.9 million in today's money? There's no doubt that he is. Players like him almost never go to free agency. And so, I wanted to talk about free agency. And I wanted to also talk about the Detroit Red Wings. Things are actually looking pretty good in Motown right now. They did have a pretty gutsy victory against the Calgary Flames yesterday. An overtime winner, it was a really tight game, and the vibes were immaculate. But if you go over into the replies of this R-Hockey thread, the top comment of the Rantanen making $14 million a year on the free agent market conversation is, he's right. And I want us, the Wings, to be the one who pays him. And furthermore, this was discussed about even further by Lucas Raymond, the GOAT. That's a spicy meatball that I don't entirely disagree with. Nah, we don't need to put us in a cap bind and mortgage our future when our team's nowhere close to competing for anything. You're in year 8 of a rebuild, don't you think it's time to make a push? Nope, the team's not ready for a move like this. And then there was another reply saying, hey, if we signed Mikko Rantanen 8 years, $14 million, in 2 to 5 years, we could have primes of Larkin, Rantanen, Seider, Raymond, and Edvinsson, and players like ASP, Kasper Danielson, and Michael Brandstad-Nygård on team-friendly deals. Plus, we could re-sign DeBrincat for cheaper if he keeps his current pace, which offers some room. That's a solid core if the prospects keep their pace up and the current guys keep playing like they have been. Plus, the cap could be $105 million even at the end of this contract. All the insiders expect sizable increases to the cap quite soon. And so, I wanted to dive into this idea, just kind of get my thoughts on what Mikko Rantanen in Detroit would look like and whether or not this could actually be something that works out. Now, I'll say the timeline, it does fit. Mikko Rantanen was drafted back in 2015, Larkin was a 2014 guy, Raymond and Seider were a little bit later, Seider 2019, Raymond 2020, and then it gets even further down if you talk about Edvinsson, MSB, Kasper, and Danielson. But for the most part, if you want your guys to be led by this group of players, this sort of age range, DeBrincat 2016, Rantanen 2015, Larkin 2014, they're all relatively clumped together in a good breathable age range. Like, there's a lot of breathing room here. And so, ultimately, there is a good window of opportunity, especially if you're able to get that chemistry going with a guy like Mikko Rantanen. Obviously, we had been talking about the older guys as of late. We talked about the Andrew Kopps, the Jeff Petries, the Patrick Kanes, the Tarasenkos. Sure, a lot of these guys have underperformed to some extent, but in the next few years, when these contracts are expired and when there's a little bit more flexibility, who knows where the Wings will be with some of their top young scorers right now. Mikko Rantanen's current contract expires at the end of the season, so, of course, if you were to make a $14 million pitch, it would have to be next year. You can't wait a year after that or so. But if you wanted to force it on right now, I mean, there are spots open for the Wings. Patrick Kane, for example, his contract is only going on for a season. His contract expires at the end of the year as well. You have Vladimir Tarasenko, who was signed on for 2 years, so he's going to be sticking around till 2026. And then, I guess you could say there's a little bit more of a clamp down on Kopp and Comfer and these guys, but still, as you phase these guys out eventually, there will be opportunistic ways to utilize those extra spots. But Mikko Rantanen, if he's the guy, do you think it aligns with what the Wings are trying to build? Stevie Y loves to give money to middle-aged kind of guys on the free agent market. Why not shell out some big bucks and go for one who happens to be a bit younger than that, whilst also being tremendously more talented? Don't ask me where the salary cap is going to go and how the dollars are going to work, but all I do know is right now the Wings have about $2.3 million in cap space, or 2.2, 3.1, I'm not sure. It says on Puckpedia both numbers, but they're going to have some cap space here. Next year, Patrick Kane does have his contract expired, and then you also have yourselves Christian Fischer, Tyler Mott, and Jeff Petrie, all of whom are going to become free agents, assuming none of them resign. Same thing with Alex Lyon and Ville Husso. Husso, I'd say, is maybe the biggest one to see that dollar amount come off the books. So if you had enough money, do you do it? Do you try to fill in the extra holes by just tossing up a Marco Kasper or a Nate Danielson? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think a Mikko Rantanen signing makes sense? And is $14 million a number that you're comfortable with going with if you're Stevie Y and the Detroit Red Wings? The comment section is your floor. I'm going to leave a link in the description as well to the video on TSN Insider Trading, not to mention another link over to the Reddit post wherein the folks talk about Detroit potentially going after Rantanen. It's about time, right? Make a big splash. Get a huge name. The Wings have not necessarily done much of that in terms of free agent signings. I get that they went out there and traded for Alex DeBrincat, which was a really big deal. They signed Patty Kane, but he was coming off a surgery. He wasn't really supposed to be great. But Mikko Rantanen, this guy could be one of the best free agents the NHL has seen since John Tavares and Artemi Panarin. And if the Wings could get it done, I actually think it would be a pretty good idea. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.